and we're about a minute out. But I hope you all heard that great song. That's Affirmation, Snoop Dogg. I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 21-year-old son. And I regularly sing that song with my daughter. And I think it's good for us to remember your feelings matter, right? Our feelings matter. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now and just let you know, this is Flight Paths to STEM, empowering access through drones and universal design for learning. And we want to start off with a little introduction. So you heard a little bit about the affirmation song, and I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Amanda Bastoni. I am Director of Career, Technical, and Adult Education at CAST. Before that, I was a CTE director for the largest CTE center in the state of New Hampshire. And then I was also a CTE teacher. So I'm going to have Laurie introduce herself, and I'd love everyone to introduce themselves in the chat. And we're going to sort of try doing one of these affirmations. So research tells us that it doesn't matter, if the affirmations connect to the content, but if we prime students with self-affirmations, we'll see a 40% increase in student effort. So especially our students who are feeling like maybe they don't belong in STEM, they're going to be more likely to persist in the class and engage in the class if we do an affirmation. So I'm going to share one with you. I introduced myself. I feel positive. You should see some bullets. So I'd ask everyone to introduce themselves and maybe finish one of these affirmations. I feel positive about being a wrestling coach. So right now I am a middle school wrestling coach and really loving that experience. And that's what I'm really feeling positive about right now. So if you want to take a minute, Laurie, and introduce yourself and finish one of those affirmations, and then we'll be checking the chat. And I'm hoping everyone can also take a minute, introduce themselves, and fill out one of these affirmations.
I'm Laurie Prewandowski. I'm a digital learning specialist, formerly known as a technology integrator. So I work at a rural middle school and high school, and I've been with Take Flight since the beginning, supporting a math and a science teacher as we went through the curriculum. Something I value most about myself is that this is my second career and I'm older, but I am always wanting to learn new things and I never give up. I'm like, I'm going to figure these drones out. I don't even know how to do anything with them, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick with it and I'm going to make it work. I think you're muted, Amanda.
Okay, so I'm going to check the chat really quick and see who we have in the room, and then we can keep going on to our next slide. So we're really excited to have you guys. So let's see what people put in the chat. All right, Jane, being active. Yes, that's great, Jane. And Jana, being compassionate. It's wonderful. So empathy towards others. These are great, you guys. And so what I want to say is that in Take Flight, we integrate these affirmations throughout the curriculum. So what you're experiencing here is a taste of something that we ask the teachers to integrate into the Take Flight curriculum. So yeah, keep the affirmations coming. If you've just joined us, Kelly will reshare the link to the slide deck. But what we've done is tried to introduce ourselves and share a little affirmation about who we are and get us started on this presentation, kind of started on the right foot. That's what we're thinking about. So here's the affirmation slide. Okay, so let's keep going. I know we only have a short amount of time. So how do we take a UDL perspective on creating access to STEM? It's kind of an interesting, challenge. So first of all, I just wanted to say, make sure that we're all grounded in what universal design for learning is. Yeah, I think to sum it up, universal design for learning says that there are different ways that learners engage, perceive, and express what they've learned, and providing options and choice is essential. And so we need to provide options and choice around how students engage, options and choice around how they perceive, and options and choice around how they can express themselves. But we have with us, so excitingly, a teacher. We have Laurie here from a STEM integrator from the classroom. And I wanted to ask Laurie to just take a minute and maybe talk to us about what UDL means to her, or why she was excited that UDL was integrated into this project.
So UDL to me is firm goals, flexible means. And when you're thinking about something like drones, you want to have, or STEM, and specifically drones, you want to have a bunch of different ways that people can engage in the curriculum. And because that's going to help them, foster interest and feel like they belong if there's multiple ways for them to do that. And in a rural situation, we want it to feel relevant to kids. So having it be drones and looking at the drone careers, those are multiple ways that kids can feel connected. We also want to make sure that if there are any kind of resource gaps, that we can be creative and flexible with how we approach the learning, so that students who kind of came up maybe using controllers because of video games, okay, they're all set with that part, but how do we have resources that can let kids come in this other way? So there's a piece of equipment, it's an orb, it's like this little flying ball, and that kind of neutralizes it. So it's just another way that kids can interact with the material, but it's a different approach, so that it's not this one size fits no one kind of thing. And then, when the kids are done with doing this, we want them to be able to express themselves in multiple ways. And so it could be a coding lesson that they do, or they create some sort of manual flying technique that is like a rescue mission that they have fashioned in their mind, so that they're not just doing the one thing that's in the curriculum, but we give them multiple ways to show it. So that is the part about this UDL that I find really, really helpful with this curriculum.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laurie. And I see some great responses in the chat. So yeah, don't worry about being late, Sarah. We're just really happy to have you. So we just talked about making sure that we're all on the same page about what UDL is, and making sure that we have an understanding of how we can integrate or utilize the UDL strategies. So first of all, one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure, so this is like a UDL approach to creating access to STEM. And the first thing we have to do when we think about using UDL to create access is we have to understand the barrier. We really need to understand, like, what is getting in the way, or what is causing some learners or all learners not to have access, or even causing teachers, right, not to have access to this curriculum so they can effectively teach it. So I just wanted to start, Laurie and I wanted to start with, we got to understand the barrier. So this Take Flight project is funded by the National Science Foundation, and it's a grant so that we can create a free drone curriculum. So this curriculum is going to be freely available to all educators across the country, designed for middle school classrooms, so that teachers can teach drones in any STEM classroom in any middle school in the United States. With a little asterisk by it, which is we did focus on rural. We really wanted to think about rural teachers and rural learners, because there are some significant barriers to accessing STEM experienced by rural communities. So while any teacher can roll this out, our focus was, how do we really support those rural learners? And it's going to be a suite of challenges and missions that teachers can use. And it will include videos, as Laurie said, about careers, connecting the drones to careers. CAST isn't going to sell the drones. We just make recommendations on which drones to purchase, what equipment to use, and then teachers are free to just use these materials in their classroom. And that's what this project was funded through. And the problem it was trying to solve was that rural learners, and especially rural girls, are still not represented in STEM careers at the rates we would like to see them. So we wanted to make sure, or think about, how could we create access to STEM careers for rural teachers and young rural girls. And we have this really awesome Take Flight intro video that kind of sums up the whole project. And I'm going to share it with you because I think it does a great job of sort of, telling you the behind Take Flight, the goals behind Take Flight, and also going along with what we talked about UDL, making sure that we offer those multiple means of representation, right? So I'll turn the captioning on and we can watch this video. So we can really make sure that we're all on the same page about what Take Flight is. So Kelly and Laurie, I would just ask if you can't hear or you need me to turn it up, just please let me know. And I'll go ahead and play it.
Girls can do anything, so it's our job to show them everything. That's especially important when it comes to careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM fields. You see, even today, girls are still underrepresented in STEM fields like aviation and computer science. But it doesn't have to be that way. In elementary school, for example, boys and girls equally love STEM. Then, around middle school, something shifts and girls start to move away from activities, classes, and ultimately careers that involve STEM. That's where Take Flight comes in. Take Flight is a free adaptable school curriculum developed by learning scientists at CAST and funded by the National Science Foundation. Thank you, NSF. Through Take Flight, middle school teachers have access to all the tools and resources needed to teach their students about drones and to help them develop STEM skills. What the team at CAST did was create a flexible curriculum filled with evidence-based moves proven to help young girls retain their motivation for STEM without making anyone feel excluded. So, what do drones have to do with all of this? Well, first, drone technology is a growing field. By giving middle school students the skills they need to fly drones safely and by showing them the many careers connected to drones, students can shape their own STEM journeys free from established stereotypes. Second, to fly drones safely, you must fly in groups. Being able to work in teams and solve large-scale problems is a STEM skill, one that isn't always talked about. Third, and finally, drones are engaging. Students love them. Through the Take Flight curriculum, students are exposed to a world of opportunities in a multitude of careers like aviation, geographic mapping, weather forecasting, shipping and delivery, and even wildlife monitoring. Your students will explore these opportunities and pick up skills needed in all STEM careers like coding, communication, and collaboration, all while learning to fly a drone in the classroom. The Take Flight website breaks the curriculum down into 6 missions or modules, with each mission made up of 2 to 4 challenges or activities. During these challenges, students take photos, write notes, and reflect on their experience, assembling all the materials into a final portfolio that they can share with others. And don't worry, each mission includes everything you will need, from equipment recommendations to advice from teachers. From lesson plans to professional development, you will have access to it all. Plus, since it's all free and provided through shared documents, the resources can be adjusted, redesigned, or edited so you can make it work in your classroom. So, what's holding you back? It's time. Grab your drone and get ready to take flight.
Yeah, awesome. I saw Laurie in there. So any questions? I just want to take a second, maybe, half a heartbeat, 30 seconds, and just see any questions about the Take Flight program or the barriers that we were trying to address. And we'll watch the chat and then keep going. Oops. Okay. So the next step that we, if you want to create access to STEM for any population of learners, but in our case, we're really thinking about rural educators and girls, you need to select the right equipment, right? That's like a really critical piece of this component, right? And I think Laurie has had experience and I've had experience like not selecting the right equipment and the frustration that teachers can feel. And we didn't select the right equipment at first, even in Take Flight. We can talk about that in a second. Actually, we picked the wrong drones. We had some Holy Stone drones that were relied on Wi-Fi, and the teachers are really struggling to get their IT folks to support them. So we really want to make sure we're starting with the right drones. And in fact, you'll see this flying orb, which I'm going to let Laurie talk about a little bit, but there's a reason why we actually start the curriculum with this flying orb, and it's an access move. It's a move to create access. And it's because when we had kids starting with the drones, and we set the drone, and remember, these are multi-gender teams where Take Flight should be rolled out in any middle school curriculum across the country, in many middle school across the country. When you set the controller down and you have a team of 3 middle school kids, who grabs the controller first? Does anybody want to take a half a second and just answer that? If you think you know, which kid grabs that controller first? A boy. All right. Yeah, Sarah. So yes, it was typically a boy or someone with familiarity with controllers, which happened to be a boy, Sarah. Very good. Like often was a young boy who'd been playing video games. And so what that did is it kind of sent a little bit of a message to all, yeah, a video game playing kid. Yes, great, Jane. It sends a little bit of a message like, I'm not sure I belong, or do I belong, because other people know how to use the controller right away. So one access move we did was to start with these orbs. And I'm going to move forward, but I'm going to come back to Laurie on this topic a little. And the other reason we focused on the equipment is you could take the equipment and apply it in new contexts. So Laurie started an after-school club, which we know research tells us that when you have these competitive teams and after-school teams, if you can get girls onto those teams, they are more likely to switch their career choice or career preference to STEM because they participate in STEM in this like new way, in this new environment. A kid with impulse control issues. Yes, that's very funny. So here's a little bit on why the orbs. And then this is a photo I just wanted to show you guys from the field. The equipment we also selected, you don't have to have your Part 107 license, drone license, and you can fly it in hallways. And I think that's really important. It was important to teachers. They would say, I don't know if I have a big enough classroom. There's like a lot of barriers to using drones in schools that teachers were experiencing. So we picked drones that were codable, that could be flown in hallways, that didn't need a lot of IT support. And we started with those drones. So let me go back one second. Laurie, is there anything you want to say about the equipment? I just want to give you a minute to check in.
Yeah, so the most important thing is we went with drones that you couldn't fix on your own. So that was a problem because you had to be able to solder the motors. And so the girls or any user who's never used a drone, which could be a boy who has never had any exposure, they're not going to be able to use the drone successfully if you don't let them fly. And if they don't have any experience, they're going to crash into the wall, especially in a classroom that's so small. And so you have to be able to have a drone that you can fix yourself. And the co-drone that we're using, you can snap the motors and put them in yourself because it's very freeing for new learners when you say, don't worry, if you hit the wall and it breaks, we can fix it. So just do it, just try it instead of like, I'm going to break it and then the whole program's over because there's no more drones.
Yeah, it's a great point. Thank you so much, Laurie. So then, going along with UDL, of course. So first we want to understand the problem. We want to pick the right equipment. And then we want to make sure we're proactively designing the materials. So this was a step that we really had to do in iterations. We had to think of the curriculum and the website in these various iterations. And it went through a lot of changes, right? And Laurie's team, we iterated with 4 teachers at the beginning and then more teachers as we went on, and really helped us think about what components are critical, what will create barriers and what will create access to understanding how to use the curriculum for educators, especially educators who don't have maybe a lot of support. They're a singleton in a rural community, or they're tech, novices, right? They're not used to using technology. A math teacher maybe isn't used to using drones in her classroom, right? And so we want to make sure that the curriculum is easy to access. One of the ways we did that, and this came directly from the teachers, was making sure that the curriculum standards were clearly outlined and available to educators. So they said, Amanda, how does this, how am I going to justify teaching this, or tell the administration that I need to justify this? So listening to teachers, we made sure we had those curriculum standards. And we also created these slide decks that are fully flexible, fully accessible for the teachers to pull down and use in ways that work for them. And in those slide decks, we actually embedded the professional development. Because I don't know about all of you, but the teachers in our communities were telling us we really don't have time to go to an hour-long training, or even a day-long or even an hour-long training to learn how to do all of this. I really need it to be intuitive, quickly, easy to understand. So in those slide decks, which teachers can download, are green slides that kind of give a little PD, a little how to use the section, and then there's the slides that teachers can present to their classrooms. The other thing we really wanted to make sure when we thought about proactively designing the materials was making sure they were relevant. So Laurie alluded to some career videos. Each of the missions is embedded with career videos that show a range of women doing careers in using drones, that have careers using drones. And what's really interesting is in our focus groups afterwards, the girls noticed that there was women in these videos, but the boys didn't notice. So there was no like, as far as the focus groups we completed, there was no negative or adverse effect. The boys still watched it and they, saw people doing drones. They loved it. They were like, cool, drones, I want to do drones. And the girls thought, cool, I want to do drones. And here's someone that looks like me or someone I can relate to in the career video. And so it was really impactful for the young ladies. And then finally, we have a student portfolio that teachers can download and students can fill out. Originally, we thought that would be done online. Teachers kept saying, no, we need a printable version or an online version. So returning to UDL, we need multiple means. So we need this to be available in multiple ways. And we want to know when we should tune in, when we should have kids go to that portfolio. So we created a little icon that is in the teacher slide deck that indicates to them, hey, have kids go to the student portfolio now. I want to turn it over to Laurie and see, Laurie, any feedback on how we proactively designed these, or any just feedback on your experience rolling this curriculum out with these materials?
Yeah, so for this section, it's been helpful to have the portfolio to keep people focused. And I think that we see that girls get really disengaged from STEM activities in middle school, but these activities there's a lot of creativity of like solving a problem, and girls really respond well when there's a social impact. So we had this one video about lung transport. So we had kids figure out how they could bring lungs and fly them around. So we had like little paper lungs. So when it's something that there feels like there's a social impact, girls especially, but all the kids are like, oh, there's a purpose besides just flying this drone around up, down, left, and right. And I think, when you think about STEM, a lot of times girls especially, but boys that aren't good in math, anybody who's not good in math immediately starts to have this breakdown. And then we show them you can do a STEM career and the math can come along in this practical way instead of it being a barrier like up front. It's like, look at this, we're just looking at speed and distance and things like that. And that has helped these all the kids in this rural community that I live in start to see like, okay, STEM is not so scary after all. Like, these are cool things. Like, I can do this and I could be on a team of people that can solve these problems.
Yeah, great. Perfect. Okay. And now remember, if you have questions or comments or you disagree or you want to engage in a conversation, please, you can come on mic or you can drop it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. So then the fourth thing, the UDL move that we want to focus on in creating access to STEM is making sure you're collaborating with end users. So how, we can have the greatest ideas, but we need to make sure that it's really resonating in the field. So we originally had 8 missions. We had to reduce to 6. Laurie was like, this is way too much. We have these STEM certificates of completion that the kids get at the end, but we didn't have a space to write the student's name on it. So that was a very big issue that teachers, pointed out to us. We want to be able to say, Laurie, you've completed, or Jane, you've completed. So we made those changes. And then what was really cool is Laurie and other teachers we have on the Take Flight curriculum actually created their own extension projects. So some middle school teachers started taking their middle schoolers up to the high school CTE and do aviation tours. Laurie actually worked with her culinary teacher to make edible drones, because edible drones are a video that we can watch. And so the culinary teacher did this STEM activity in their class. So we really tried to encourage teachers to develop these extension projects, and then we posted those on the website for other educators as well. So these are 3 quotes from educators reflecting on the curriculum, and then I want to hand it over to Laurie again, but I'm going to read these out loud in case they're hard to see. And these are just quick, notes, formative assessments that teachers gave to us. So the free curriculum seems extremely easy to use and access, and to have it ready-made is huge. It feels like the curriculum was designed for teachers by teachers. That's absolutely my favorite one. I'm so excited at the built-in pieces that are so thoughtfully connected to self-confidence. Remember, we started with those affirmations, ability and careers and fun. So Laurie, anything else you want to add about this collaborating with partners?
I sort of brought this up a little bit before, but it's that idea of you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail, that trial and error. Of course, that drone's going to hit the wall because when it's coming back at you the opposite way and your brain can't think and the controller's different, it's going to crash. Like, but so what? That's what you're going to figure out as you're going. So that trial and error, making failure seem normal. It's just like, just go on from it and try again. And then just making sure that as you're working through this program that you're using any kind of digital tools or assistive technology to help scaffold this learning. So some of the things I did with the girls that were really nervous and embarrassed in the class is they would come in during study hall or like a break, and they would come in by themselves and they would have a little bit of private practice. So anything that you can do that can change that practice environment. Then the girls went back into the classroom and they were like, okay, all I needed was 5 minutes of flying that drone by myself where people weren't watching. So anytime you can alter that and scaffold that so that people can catch up. Like we had boys that came in too for extra practice. Again, it's not just girls, it's people who had barriers that they had no prior experience. You just try to set that environment for them.
Yeah, it's great. And Laurie, so now we're going to just show you that we have some resources for you so you can access the drone technology. This is an article in Technique magazine. We have a video on the UDL guidelines, but before we do that, I actually just want to say a couple of teachers, and Laurie noticed this, and I'm going to ask Laurie to speak to this, is we actually had girls more engaged because they could code the drones. So interestingly, the coding actually opened up accessibility because if you can't hold the controller or you aren't able to maybe fly the drone for, you're nervous about it, or we actually had a lot of girls who do really well in school. And because they were so successful in a school environment, they didn't want to fail and fly the drones. But the coding allowed them to actually open up and try this. So Laurie, maybe in like a couple minutes, you could just tell us that story.
Yeah, so that is totally true. The coding makes it be like it's just something between the computer and the drone, not you personally. And so that allowed girls to just be like, well, I'm going to do this program, I'm going to see what happens, and then I'm going to tweak it. But we had, as Amanda said, we started a drone competition team, and we had a girl that didn't want to be on the team. And she said, I just want to go to the club. I just want to code. I don't want to compete. And so she did that. We had 2 girls do that, and they so I said, well, why don't you just code how the kids on the drone competition team are going to code? And just over these 3 sessions after school, they coded the whole program. And then we had some kids that couldn't come to one of our competitions. So we said, hey, do you think that you want to come and just run that code? And they were like, yeah. So they came to the competition and they did the code. And then they said, we want to join the team now. We think that we can fly it manually. We saw that other people weren't that much better than what we thought we were. And we see that we were the coders and we were so part of this team. We had our own little role and we could be successful on this bigger team. So we hooked those 2 girls for the rest of the season this year. So it's the coding
Awesome.
that seems to bring them in.
That's great. So Laurie, we have 2 questions. One is about having a blind or visually impaired student with the drones. We had a visually impaired student at one of the schools, and the coding did come in was really important for that student. So he was able to do the coding on his device and zoom in so that he could see how he was interacting with the coding. And also he said that the orbs were accessible for him because he could hear them moving. They're pretty loud. And so that's an example. But I also want to jump to this question from Sarah, who says, a lot of teachers hear the word drones and they have limited knowledge and they have a ton of hesitation. Totally true, Sarah. Laurie and I experienced this. We have 25 rural classrooms rolling out the drone curriculum, and there's a lot of, anxiety about it. And then it says, how do you recruit them to just jump in and try it? So one of the ways that we really recruited them And one of the things we hope Take Flight does is we really try to start, like Laurie said, scaffold the curriculum. So it starts with Lego activities, then it builds to orbs, and then they're finally flying the drones. And we selected the drones, again, I just want to reiterate, so you don't need controller, the code drones. They're really easy to use, and they are radio signaled, radio frequency. So I guess I can't stress this enough, but it's already scary to try something new. And then if the material is hard to work with, it's going to you're just going to put on the brakes. So we really tried to, pick equipment that was user friendly if you were a tech nervous. And a lot of them did lack that personal confidence. We have 1 minute left. So Laurie, I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but.
Yeah, so you always start with your early adopter. So I started with a female math teacher who wanted to do this on behalf of the girls. And then what happens is, like she showed you, Amanda, that the kids fly it in the hallway and the kids go to the next class so pumped about the drone. So teachers are seeing these little things flying in the hallway. They see that it's not scary, that it's not crashing all over. And they're like, wait. And all the kids are like, why can't we do that? How come you can't do this? And so once you get one person to do it, it will grow because it'll be so excited.
And I want to say, please reach out to me. I've dropped my email in the chat a few times if you have any additional questions. Oregon, actually, I know we have some folks on here from Oregon, flew me out in the summer, and they're flying me out again to do a 1-day training with any teachers who want to attend. It's through the Oregon hub. And that I will say that in-person training does build confidence. Teachers really appreciate that. We have a few schools rolling it out, and they have STEM integrators like Laurie. That does build confidence because you have someone to talk to about it. But we're hoping that even the rural teacher, working in rural Montana in isolation, will find that the curriculum is accessible for them and that they have the confidence to try it out. So thank you, everyone. If you have any other questions, you can drop them in the chat, but I think I've reached time, Kelly. So I think I have to turn it back over to you, even though I could talk about drones forever. And I also want to thank Laurie. I really hope that we could, if we were in person, I would say, everybody clap your hands for Laurie, but I just so much appreciate her coming, taking time out of her day to speak with us.
Yes, thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Amanda. This has been great. For those of you who are still here, just know that this is recorded and it'll be up on our website as soon as we get it there. It'll be soon, within the next couple of days. So you can share it with all your friends and learn about Take Flight. It's awesome. And it's so fun. It's so fun. You're all going to want to buy one of the drones, the ball drones. I did.
Yeah, those orbs. Yeah, they're fun.
The orbs, yes. Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, everybody.